turn it around. Okay, I'm having a conversation with the guitarist Scott Borg, and we are going to imagine that his the other two members of his trio, Adam Levin and where is Matthew Rohde, are with him. We tried, we failed. You know, everybody's going in a million different directions over what I don't know what it's been 2, 3, 4 months anyway. People get
Yeah.
sick, you know, something like that. So the ideal, which we all know would have been complicated anyway because it's kind of hard to keep all those bodies in frame, is now just Scott Borg. So Scott has not signed any affidavits yet, but I'm sure that his partners will allow him to speak on their behalf. I'm speaking of including Scott Borg, who is before us, and by the way, one of the most principal participants. May I say so? This is not a tricameral equal duties government. This is you have your fingers in the transcriptions a lot.
Yes.
And there's some kind of nickname you have, that anything you touch you can turn into spangled guitar spaghetti or something. I don't know. But we're talking with guitarist Scott Borg here, and we're referring to the Great Necks. I want to ask you about that because it's damn clever. The Great Necks is the ensemble, three guitarists: Scott Borg, Adam Levin, and Matthew Rohde. The Great Necks have put out. This is your first CD, right? As the Great Necks,
Yes.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And it's called The Great Necks: Original Arrangements for Three Guitars. Okay, let's go. Why three? Why not four? Why not two? What's with three? What happened? What's this?
So, first of all, Matt and Adam and I, we actually go back many, many years. And we have always kind of had this shared musical kind of understanding and musical love. And, a lot of it is a little unorthodox every now and then. And so it kind of felt natural that the three of us would kind of form a group together. We wanted to avoid a quartet. One of the reasons being is all of us kind of feel that when you hear a quartet playing, there's usually one person that isn't playing. And we kind of, thought we can do pretty much, hopefully anyway, just as much on three guitars as four guitars can do. The guitar has a limited range, and kind of isolating that range, like a low range, mid range, high range, to three guitars, it just kind of seemed a really kind of nice approach to music, and arranging music for three guitars instead of four.
Yeah, and there is a more practical means to it. Guitar quartets are a dime a dozen. No offense.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yes,
also, your fee is less. What can I say? Three guitars makes sense.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. And, but a lot of the times we actually found that a lot of quartet writing, while you can get some very virtuosic quartet writing, a lot of it is I I'm going to be very careful when I say this, but a lot of it seems to be a little simplistic in terms of what guitarists can actually do. And we kind of found that when it's three guitars, you really have to push yourself a lot to a very kind of complex level to be able to kind of achieve what a kind of like a full spectrum of the guitar's abilities.
And let me see if I understood that because it's what I'm hearing. Tremendous clarity, and I now realize that what you said earlier, this a fourth guitar is almost like a double somewhere. I mean, things get maybe a little too thick, maybe a tiny bit
Yeah.
too dense. Whereas with the three, what I hear throughout this wonderful CD of arrangements. Wait till we talk about what the arrangements are. But what I hear is, oh, it's so great to hear all the counterpoint, and I want to ask you about some of that. It doesn't sound to me like the composers. I think there's a lot of horsing around going on, but you're going to tell me
Oh
whether
yeah.
I'm all wet or not. Okay, good, good, good. Oh, I'm so glad I got it. Um, but first, let's just. I need to be official here. Scott Borg, who is before us, studied. And by the way, you guys have this Yale connection. It looks like overwhelmingly, which means you're all raging intellectuals. Um, Studies as a kid with your father.
Yeah.
What is that? How? What a miracle! What magic was that with your dad?
Yeah, so it was really wonderful. My father's a percussionist, um, and so we grew up with music all throughout the house. And most of my family are musicians, so it was only kind of natural that we were going to be musicians ourselves as well. Um, so a lot of the kind of the formative stuff was with him, and our real kind of closest um, kind of official kind of guitar teacher was 3 hours away in Sydney. And so after we had kind of met a certain standard, we decided to then go up to Sydney and have lessons and drive 3 hours each way once a week. So
The things parents will do, it's quite
exactly.
astonishing. Well, and you attended Yale, Juilliard. You've just finished apparently your doctorate, right, at the New England Conservatory,
Yeah.
and you're on faculty at Montgomery College in Rockville, Maryland.
Yes.
And you conduct the Mid Maryland Guitar Festival. Of course, no wonder you're doing all these
Yes.
arrangements just to keep all of your people at Mid Maryland Guitar Festival happy. By the way,
Yeah.
I'm going to put all this stuff up, all of your websites. All three of you have wonderful websites, and the ensemble and the colleges and the Mid Maryland Guitar Festival. I haven't looked yet, but you must have a website, I'll bet.
Yeah. There should be a website up and running for that.
And you also still have this Boston connection. You're teaching at the High School Academy of the New England Conservatory. If I understand that correctly.
Yeah, for the Boston Guitar Fest, which is happening next week. I'm just part of the academy program there, teaching high school students and ensembles and conducting the orchestra up there and
Wonderful.
doing lessons and also doing a little bit of performing while I'm up there.
Yeah, wonderful. Adam Levin is a Fulbright scholar. Wow. Recitalists all over the place, as you all are so busy all over the place. Tons of recordings. He's made
Yes.
tons of recordings. You both had the same teacher, Elliot Fisk.
Yes.
Yeah. And uh, everybody knows Elliot Fisk who knows anything about guitar.
Yeah.
Professor of, and you are Adam is professor of guitar at the University of Rhode Island and teaches at the University of Massachusetts in Boston. So you guys meet up occasionally in the Boston area, maybe something like that.
Yeah, we definitely meet up every now and then. A lot of the times that we do meet up, it's because of upcoming performances and everything like that. Where we're somewhat kind of forced to meet up, I guess, because we're all living in different cities. I'm living in DC, Adam's up in Boston, and Matthew is living in Mexico City.
I saw
So,
that. Wow.
so yeah, we do cross paths a fair bit through various means. So, Adam, for instance, Adam just came and performed down here at the National Gallery just a few weeks ago, and so we got to meet up there as well. So. Yeah, we see each other quite a fair bit, but
National Gallery.
we actually do talk to each other on the phone quite.
Sure. Where was that? Where was the National Gallery? Are you in Florida? I've kind of forgotten.
I'm sorry.
You said Matthew came and performed for the National Gallery. I was just
Oh,
wondering where.
Adam just came and performed
Adam.
with his violin duo at the National Gallery of Art here in DC.
In DC, okay, I was
Yeah.
not quite clear whereabouts you were. And Matthew Rohde, another Yale College graduate, I'm not sure if I'm repeating myself here, but and other schools all over the place, Conservatoire National de Musique et Danse in Paris, Academia something, Chigiana,
Yeah.
I think, in Siena. I'm terrible with my Italian. But anyway, and then lives in Mexico City, so how diverse can it get? And Matthew Rohde does some arranging too. So here's what I want to know. Okay, you've got this. Somebody comes up with this thing. It's called the Great Necks. I mean, when I saw that, I thought, what? Wow, that's perfect. There you are holding the necks of your guitar. But how? What? Who came up with that one? That's a beauty. He should get it should get another 10%. Go.
Yeah, so we wanted something kind of visual. I think as a name. There's so many wonderful groups out there that have got such wonderful different names, rather than just like a guitar trio or something like that. And we were just kind of skirting with the idea of different elements of the guitar and the strings, the neck, the sound hole, just lots of other things. And I can't actually remember who suggested the Great Necks. I think it may have been my wife. I'm not entirely certain.
Really? Even though you were all drinking vodka tonics like crazy? Amazing.
No.
You know, hey, how about the Great Necks? Oh, that
but
sounds good.
it kind of as soon as we kind of thought of that or heard of that, I can't remember which one it was. We just kind of started thinking that it's very it kind of evokes a lot of imagery, and it lets the listener and the audience members kind of draw their own conclusions on what it means and everything like that. Plus, it's also a really great way to have a record cover and stuff like that. Flamingos, giraffes,
Yeah.
brontosauruses. I mean,
Uh-huh.
there's so many options.
It's very whimsical as well
Yeah, yeah,
for the public. And quite whimsical. I hate to almost say cute. I don't mean cute in a horrible way. I just mean it's just such a sweet name. As you said, you could have been the whatever guitar trio. Ugh,
yeah.
for me. So I wanted to ask, so you refused to tell us who actually came up with with the name. It's blotted from memory, but anyway, it's a beauty. The Great Necks original arrangements for 3 guitars. That's the CD, and I'll listen to this, everybody, just so you get an idea. Within 2 weeks of its release. That was this past November. So I'm not so far behind on this one. November of 2018, the trio's debut album reached the Billboard Top 10 charts. I don't usually pay any attention to any of this
Yeah.
stuff because it just makes me all nervous and stuff. But top 10 Billboard charts in the traditional classical category, and was described by Classical Guitar Magazine as, quote, a wonder to behold. End quote. Oh, how am I going to surpass that one? But that's what we have here, and I guess it's time really to kind of let's kind of go down. First of all, though, you have to confess. You made it public. You put it in your CD. This idea that you all 3 of you have these monikers, Popeye, Tomcat, and Pepe Le Pew. And I just want to know, what is that? Is that a college thing? What?
So I think it's just a bit of a kind of a caricature of us as people. Whenever anyone that kind of knows us on stage or in rehearsals or anything like that, we're constantly just getting up to mischief and having fun. There's a couple of pieces that we play now in our concerts where we have this kind of goal to try to make each other laugh during the performance.
That is so tacky.
And we kind of do succeed every now and then. We have a couple of pieces where we're very free to do lots and lots of different things, and generally Adam is the one that we attack the most. He's a very gullible guy, so and it's very easy to make him laugh, and so he's usually he bears the brunt of most of the jokes. But we just kind of a lot of our performances and rehearsal, we try to bring out our personality a lot, and we definitely do have sometimes a little bit too much fun when rehearsal time and performing and just kind of hanging out, and we'll usually spend when we do meet up and rehearse, we usually spend half of the time with really intense practice and the other half just laughing. So
this is good.
Yeah. Yeah,
you seemed almost guilty just a few minutes ago as you began this.
Yes,
look on your face was of extreme guilt. The discipline does fall apart now and again, and we have a good time. It's perfect for an ensemble. Hello.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we kind of one of the things that we really like to try to do is we let ourselves kind of be present. Far too often, unfortunately, kind of classical guitarists are kind of very insular, and kind of refrain from movement and things like that. We like to move a lot, and we like to show our feelings while we're playing, rather than kind of being quite stone-faced, which is, unfortunately seems to be the norm for most guitarists.
Interesting. I've just had a conversation recently about this very subject generically, about musicians in classical music needing to be more expressive in their body movement and everything else. You know what? It's going on all the time. It's better and better and better. I mean, there is no bad news from classical music. This interview person was kind of living in the myths, like, oh, well, is classical music dead? You know, all
Yeah,
that. And I,
yeah,
and I, it's like, no, are you crazy? I mean, it's wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and alive and well, 100 and whatever, 87 record companies of classical music. I mean, on and on and on.
yeah,
Your CD, so it's fabulous. And young musicians, and what I mean from that, from the pillar of my 71 years, is young artists in their 30s, you know, pushing the 40s, where they'll really get serious.
yeah,
There are what amazes me is they're wildly capable of improvisation.
yep,
I mean, that was not part of my upbringing as a young conductor. You see what I mean? Things have changed
yeah,
so magnificently. Again, Gunther Schuller had come up with all the time this third way, this idea of mixing jazz and improvisation and classical music is there. Now let's talk about this CD.
yeah,
Okay, ready? Uh, Remember, everybody, these are transcriptions for three
yeah,
guitars. Some are quite glorious and marvelous and perfectly to be expected. And by the way, with three, I'm speaking of the Bach transcriptions in particular. Oh, so clean, so wonderful. By the way, the mic space, you know, the affectation of stereophonic. I hope I'm using a not too incorrect word, but that idea of a stereophonic experience on the CD is meticulously perfect, I think, in terms of
yeah,
the
yeah.
sound. It's so beautiful, so subtle.
Yeah, our sound engineer, Drew Henderson, up in Toronto, he, you know, is perhaps one of the best sound engineers for guitarists out there. He did a magnificent job, really working with us, you know, trying to kind of get like a really kind of different sound world than what most CDs, which you hear. The other thing that was absolutely fantastic is that, you know, the sound which you hear on the CD is pretty much the acoustics of the venue that we used. Like, we didn't add really in anything at all. It's just kind of very pure. It just kind of really attacks you, and, you know, you can obviously, you know, and the dynamics and everything like that aren't toned down or equalized like most CDs are. We really wanted to kind of give the listener a real kind of authentic representation of what we do.
Okay, so let's start with the first track, which has to be world famous by now. Your transcription for three guitars of Finlandia. I
Yes.
mean, take a nice pause, everyone. Pull yourselves together. Think Finlandia. Three guitars, Finlandia. And I wanted to ask you, because having just expostulated just a moment ago about this wonderful, clean, delicious sonic sound and authentic sound that is captured, nevertheless, I want to ask you about those opening chords of Finlandia,
Yes.
because that has some deliberate reverb, and it's exactly perfect. It recreates that orchestral sound of those opening chords,
Yeah.
with that, and so on. So that's really brilliant on the part of your engineer, I think. Or am I out of my mind? Is that the right
Yeah.
choice?
No. So one of the things that all three of us are known for is that we're actually quite aggressive on our instruments.
Ah,
So when I was actually doing, you know, just the opening of Finlandia, I made it, and so we're all playing 6 note chords, one low, one medium, and one high. And you know, especially those last kind of fortissimo, you know, chords at the end, that reverb is just all natural from the church.
really?
Um,
That's
yeah, yeah,
astonishing.
it was, and, you
That's
know,
astonishing.
whenever we do performances, last season, whenever we did performances, we opened with Finlandia, and it was just such like a great kind of explosion of
Mm.
sound. But you know, when we did that arrangement, a lot of it was kind of trial and error to begin with. Um, when we first started as a trio, we started doing just kind of traditional trios, guitar trios, and I've had this vision for so many years now, and I've been trying to convince Matt of this vision for so many years as well, that we should be looking at orchestral music, and arranging orchestral music, and this Finlandia kind of started the madness which we're embarking on, because when I first gave them the music, they were like, "No way, this isn't going to work," and you know, after our first rehearsal, you know, it needed a bit of tweaking and everything like that, but just the guitar's unique kind of ability to kind of create so many different timbres and colors makes it, such a great instrument to try to imitate lots and lots of different instruments in the orchestra. And so, those big chordal sections of trying to imitate, that brass at the beginning, then these beautiful crossing trills to imitate the violins of the long kind of bowed notes, and
that first little tune fragment that it's harp-like.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
lovely.
Yes.
Yeah. And my question, I guess, is it sounds a little dumb, but I think you might know that my ears perked up on a couple things. Is this transcription? We're on Finlandia still. Note, and you're the transcriber.
Yep.
Note for note, and of course it isn't. But what I'm getting at is, are there any more bars or less bars in your transcription? Because I swear I heard some very interesting little things here and some little stuff over there. I mean, how much of this is you playing a little bit? Go.
Yeah. So pretty much, I'm going to say about 95% of it's note for note. And there are a little few things here and there which we have to kind of tweak to kind of make it idiomatic for the guitar. There's, obviously some abilities that other instruments have, the guitar doesn't have that. And so, a lot of trying to figure out how we can apply those kind of idiomatic things to other instruments and how we can place them in the setting of the guitar.
Yeah. And this is one of your transcriptions that you would gladly take to a big festival and have 80 guitarists play it, right? An orchestra of guitarists.
Oh yeah, I would love to. It's extraordinarily difficult.
How tough to put this together? I ask here.
So it actually kind of came together quite well. One of the great things that I love working with Adam and Matt is they're absolutely brilliant guitarists, and they basically anything I send them they can do. But the music which we do for ourselves in these arrangements, we wanted them to be very fulfilling and very challenging, and just our individual parts are some of the toughest music that we've ever played, like individually, even our solo pieces.
And I'm looking at the orchestral suite number 3. Who did you?
Yes.
Yeah, you did that transcription as well. 4 movements. So beautiful, and again, such a lovely homage in terms of intellectually and the way you treat the piece, but also wonderful little things and delicious balancing and the voice, the voicing, let alone the counterpoint, all that wonderful stuff that we can hear with 3 guitarists. It's such a treat, but also it's obviously extremely difficult as well, just in terms of even just precision, let alone technically, to put together. Yeah, for this.
Yeah. Like a lot of it of putting, especially Bach together is just kind of really identifying at what moment where's the primary line. There's so much counterpoint happening in the music of Bach, and a lot of just dropping in and out of dynamics, and just kind of especially with Bach, and everyone will say this about Bach. Bach requires the most amount of attention, and we still, whenever we meet up, like we're still kind of exploring new things and hearing new things every single time we perform this. But a lot of it, I do have to say I did experiment a lot with transpositions and things like that, to kind of help delineate those lines.
Does that have to do with, because I've written to myself in parenthesis, can't be Bach entirely? You know what I mean? Maybe those are the moments where I hear this imaginative movement or what. Help me out a little bit more on that. Because it's fascinating. When I even can hear something just a little bit different that's so clever and so interesting. That's what I'm getting at.
So one of the things that I try to be very, very mindful of is, one of the problems when people do octave transcript, transpositions and everything like that is that they totally forget about the harmonic structure underneath. And as soon as people start just like throwing up things an octave and throwing down things an octave, they're changing the chords. They're changing the function of the chords and everything like that. So what I try to do is I try to be as faithful to the harmonic structure as possible. And every single time I did do a transposition, I still tried to keep within the harmonic structure. And so a lot of times when you might be expecting something to be quite middle range and then goes high, I'll take it all down an octave and bring it all the way up high to kind of help kind of represent that motion of ascent. So a lot of kind of little tricks here and there. Just
but
based.
nothing about a little tiny bit of written, I'm sure, but a little bit of written movement. I want to say improvisatory movement.
Yeah, no, everything's
pretty straightforward. Okay.
yeah. I want to say,
later.
yeah, I want to say that with the score, I think I probably only missed out like maybe 4 or 5 notes in the entire overture. I was able to get. Yeah, I was able to get every single thing in there. So
answered my original question.
Yeah.
Now, Haito Villalobos. Oh, say, son of a gun, it's another Borg transcription. Chorus number 5 out of my Brasileira. Here's what I have. What an incredible arrangement. I mean, beautiful, sparkling, delicate, marvelous colors that you explore. Then it really takes off, and so on. But the rhythm and energy of it, it's just fabulous, and must be a big satisfaction to an audience. Must be very.
Oh yeah, very that piece has always been, a really great piece to perform. Audiences really do love that because it's got such variety. In terms of the arrangements on this CD, the Villalobos is probably, the most kind of, I'm going to say straightforward, and accessible. It's originally a piano work, and it just works absolutely beautifully, and just the way that we were able to manipulate it just made everything so clear. We kind of did get the inspiration of that. The Assad duo did a duo of it, and we've always loved that version. And to be honest with you, one of the reasons why we actually put that on the CD is when we were figuring out our original program, we kind of wanted to give ourselves a bit of a break. In terms of, we wanted to give ourselves a break in terms of just kind of being able to relax a little bit while we played, and also the audience a break from all of this intense music. It's such a lovely piece, and we thoroughly enjoyed, performing it every single time, and also the arrangement of it. And, it also gave us like a lot of, ability to kind of explore different sounds on the guitar as well. Rather than thinking of it as a piano work, we wanted to kind of think of it as Villalobos might have thought of one of his orchestral works, with some percussion, and we actually do rub some of the chords, to kind of get this nice kind of watery kind of feel, especially at the beginning. So
yeah. Very, very well done. Likewise, the Asturias, the Isaac Arbedes, another of your transcriptions. And once again, this one, it can be dangerous, this sound engineering. In the wrong hands, it can be very dangerous. But, it was such a treat to be in the middle of this wonderful soundscape that the engineer has created. And of course, it helps also to just hear everything. You can, literally with your mind's eye, if you will, follow the trace the lines as they commingle, and so it'd be a beautiful, beautiful piece. Now, about these Scriabin preludes, there are 4 Scriabin piano preludes. You and Rodi, hang on, did I pronounce this right? Work these out. What was that about? Did you fight? Did you toss coins? Did you what? How'd that work to divvy them up?
So Matt has always been a fan of Scriabin, and he was like, hey, let's do some of these screw album preludes. And we both looked through the set of 24, and to be honest with you, 18 of them, 19 of them could be done on two guitars. And so we wanted to avoid doing anything that was possible for two guitars. We wanted to kind of limit ourselves to ones that could only be done on three.
Up the game a bit. You know,
sorry?
Up the game a bit.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, we also wanted kind of, once again, like another kind of a different breath of fresh air within the CD and within the program itself. We chose, we actually originally had 5, and then we ended up dropping one of them. And we chose 4.
In retrospect, was that a good decision? The catch is, once you've achieved 5, and then at some point somehow that 5th one just didn't quite feel right.
Yeah,
it's interesting how that works.
Yeah, you know, it just didn't really kind of seem to flow the way that we wanted it to. We kind of we wanted to have a nice kind of contour when we were thinking of programming, and just that one didn't really seem to fit the contour no matter where we placed it.
Yeah, and this is what always fascinates me about assembling a program and how complicated it is. You don't throw darts at a wall. You know, it's very, very complicated. My favorite is the number 15 Lento.
Oh yeah, that's just spectacular.
Absolutely gorgeous.
That you know, it's so open, it's so exposed. I dare say that was the hardest one to record.
For what reasons? Technical difficulty or sound difficulties?
You know, getting 3 guitarists to play harmonics at exactly the same time is excruciatingly difficult. You know, unlike a stringed instrument where you can kind of sneak in, you know, a wind instrument you can kind of sneak in as well. You know, with the guitar, it's a decay instrument, and you know, once you hit that note, that's it. And you know, it was very, very hard to do that one, but it was very pleasing. You know, I remember after each take, we played through the entire piece, and you know, after each time we felt really great about it. We were like, that was great, and you know, high fives all around. So it's a beautiful piece. You know, Matt did such a great arrangement of that piece. And,
Matthew did that.
Yeah,
and also these 4. You just explained how complicated, how difficult it was to find these 4.
Yeah.
That worked, that suited this new milieu of 3 guitars, and that's really exactly right. They are just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
They are, however, you're telling us so that people don't get the wrong idea, they are difficult. Are they?
Yeah. You know, number 24.
Presto.
Yeah, it's what is it? It's like 48 seconds of pure madness. It is so difficult, and I have to admit, I did that arrangement, and I without even realizing it, I had made it more difficult. The melodies I had done in octaves, but then I also pushed it up an additional octave by accident, and didn't realize it until the day before we were actually meant to go and record. I went back and looked at the score and realized that the theme should have actually been in the bass, and we tried it down in the bass and everything like that. And I do have to say that when we kind of weighed up the options, we all liked it up the octave. You know, we used the entire spectrum of the range of the guitar when it's in that level. You know, I think that Adam hits a high A, Matt hits a high B, and I hit a high C. when we each take over the melody, and we kind of thought that musically it just kind of seemed to make a bit more sense, and also kind of acrobatically, I guess, from a performance standpoint as well. I mean, rather than just seeing like the melody in one position, it's always wonderful to see someone crazily moving up and down the field.
Yeah.
So a lot of we definitely kind of weighed the pros and cons about it, and but also we had all practiced our parts a lot, and we kind of felt like, no, we have to do it like this now. So yeah,
that's interesting. A sort of point of no return. You know what I mean? When you
Yeah.
invest so much time and energy into mastering
Exactly.
a very, very difficult piece, it's like,
And
no, we're not going to quit on this one. We're going to make this one
yeah,
work. That's all there is to
and especially with 48 seconds, I mean, it's we actually going back to the jokes that we do. I think that we did a couple of takes where we kind of challenged each other to hold our breath for the entire duration of playing the piece. So just crazy stuff like that.
It helps the expressivity if you're dying, and the bet is that you cannot breathe, or you suffer complete humiliation. Anyway, and the last track is Arturo Marquez, this Danzón number 2, which has become so popular. I mentioned off camera some wonderful videos of the piece being performed. In this case, that I remember, the Orchestra of Paris with Alondra de la Parra, the fabulous, gorgeous, wonderful woman conductor, fabulous. But what a great CD. Now that. Are we okay there, or is that also excruciatingly difficult? And how dare you people make such difficult arrangements, transcriptions? You're supposed to be disseminating this to the world.
Yeah, it is. That's a tough one as well. I mean, nothing. I mean, all three of us, whenever we do program solo concerts and stuff like that, we do try to perform the hardest things we possibly can. And that's us, and so it kind of felt only natural that whenever we joined forces, we wanted to kind of continue on that kind of idea. Matt's arrangement of the Danzón is fantastic. There are actually quite a number of arrangements for guitars out there. There's a quartet version and also a duo version as well, and but there wasn't a trio version, and Matt actually has a kind of a funny story about how he kind of came across this piece. He was at a party in Mexico City, and he was just talking to some people, and it just happened to be the niece of Marquez. So he went home and listened to the music, and about a week and a half later, he just sent us this score and said, "Hey, this is the new piece," and we were like, "Fantastic!" And that piece, a lot of I'm not going to say a lot of liberties are taken, because it's very, very accurate to the original score, but what we had to do to kind of manipulate it, to get all the percussive effects going at the same time. There are a couple of little flourishes that aren't in the original score that Matt put in.
I'm thinking of the intro, because I have a specific note. My note is "really?" Question mark.
Yeah.
Some of those guitar notes in the intro. Fascinating.
Well,
Wonderful.
It's yeah. There's a couple of
By the way,
there's a couple
no criticism. You understand?
Yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
just I'm
Yeah,
glad my ears are working.
Yeah, there's a couple of little grace notes and stuff like that in there, which we
stuff.
just have a little bit of fun with.
Exactly right. That's the whole idea, anyway.
Yeah.
Music, some kind of spontaneity and energy and all the rest.
Of course, yeah.
We better wind it down.
Yes.
You realize you have put out a first CD that is a huge knockdown, drag out, giant success. You will not be retiring anytime soon. It's true. CD sales do not make one's castle. But the point is, what's next? Surely you're talking. Are you saying no, never again? Are the three?
Yeah. So we've got kind of 3 projects underway at the moment. The most latest one is that we've been doing a few of the planets by Holtz.
Yummy.
And now we're actually just about to do also a whole Bach program of pieces that you've never heard on the guitar. So some Art of the Fugue, some Musical Offering, a Viola da Gamba, Sonata, and a couple of other things as well. And one of the things which we're actually hoping to do is to also match it with the Holst. So Bach, Holst, Bach, Holst, Bach, Holst.
I must have read something about that on your website or something, because it's such a fascinating idea.
Yeah.
Such
So
a fascinating idea. And it's a mixing of centuries, yeah, 3 centuries.
exactly. And
With the
just
stability of the planetary system as the, I mean, the whole idea is just, what are you going to call it? Great Neck Explore Mars, or I mean.
no idea just yet. No idea. But the CD label is going to have us wearing astronaut outfits. It seems only fair.
No. Oh, okay, good. I feel better.
But and we've got a lot of other ideas up our sleeve. We're kind of really going to shoot for the stars in terms of the repertoire we're choosing. A lot of unexpected things. We've got sketches for things like Grossa Fuga, things like Candide.
Oh, what a great idea!
We're also even a bit of Wagner as well, which is very daring.
Dum on three guitars. Well, you did it with Finlandia. What can I say? Yeah. I think it's very, very. You're onto something. Is what I think.
Yeah.
And just the idea of tweaking the repertoire. That's what the 21st century, I think, is about. Tweak the repertoire and record it. Everybody's recording like crazy, and we find just this amazing stuff. I mean, I thought I knew the repertoire pretty well. I haven't even touched the surface of what has been thrown at me, if you get my drift. So it's just a huge joy to experience all this incredible music and transcriptions and everything else. Okay, we're gonna shut her down. I think. Any last thoughts before we say goodbye? Anything you need to say?
Thank you so much for having me on, and I'm so glad we were able to work this out. I know that there was a lot of back and forth and everything like that. Trying to get all three of us on the screen and everything would have been kind of very difficult. But thank you so much for having me on and taking the time.
And I'll put all of this up, and the review will follow, and everybody will be happy because you're going to get that extra little chunk of publicity.
Great.
What do you call that? Sequencing of e-blasts out, so it's all good. Once more, guitarists Scott Borg, who was before us, Adam Levin, and Matthew Rowdy. I hope I got it right. The CD is a Sony Frameworks release from 2018. The Great Necks, original arrangements for 3 guitars, and is it ever original? Very fascinating, interesting, wonderful, and just so everybody knows, virtuosic. So all of you who would love to explore this material and maybe perform it, get ready to practice. Great pleasure talking with you. Thanks for giving me some time at this hour. It must be going on 11 wherever you are.
Yeah. Okay. I think it is actually. Yeah. But thank you so much, Dan. Thank you.